Before the wedding, my life felt steady. Not perfect, but safe. I had routines, dreams, and people I trusted without fear. One of those people was her. I had known her for almost 7 years before my wedding. We met when life was still simple, before serious plans, before commitments, before promises were written in stone. At first, she was just someone I talked to now and then. Over time, that distance disappeared. We shared stories, worries, and long conversations that made the days feel lighter. Slowly, she became part of my everyday life. I trusted her because she had been there during quiet moments. She listened when I spoke about work stress. She laughed with me when I was happy. She stood beside me during small disappointments. She never judged me openly. She never raised her voice. Her calm made me believe she was safe. When I met the man who would later become my husband, she was one of the first people I told. She smiled. She asked questions. She acted interested in every detail. I thought that meant support. I thought that meant care. As my relationship grew stronger, she grew closer too. She visited often. She stayed longer than others. She remembered things about him, his favorite meals, his habits, his jokes. At the time, I saw this as friendliness. I told myself she was just happy for me. I believed her presence meant she approved of my happiness. She became a bridge between us. Sometimes she helped carry messages. Sometimes she sat with us during long evenings. Sometimes she listened when we talked about plans. I never thought it was strange. I never felt threatened. I felt lucky. There were moments, though, small ones, that did not sit well with me. They were easy to ignore, easy to excuse. She sometimes went quiet when I talked about the wedding. Her smile would fade for a second, then return. She would change the topic or laugh lightly. I noticed it, but I pushed it away. Sometimes she compared herself to me. Not directly, but gently. She spoke about her own life, her loneliness, her struggles. I felt sympathy. I never thought those words carried envy. She praised my husband often. Too often. She admired his patience, his kindness, his voice. I thought she was just being kind. I told myself I was overthinking. Looking back, I see how close she was to my relationship. She knew our plans before others. She knew our disagreements. She knew our weaknesses. She was not outside my life. She was inside it. At the time, I believed trust was strength. I believed openness meant love. I believed friendship had no hidden edges. I was wrong, because the truth is simple and painful. I never imagined the person closest to me was my biggest danger. The wedding day arrived quietly, then all at once. Morning light filled the room, soft and pale, as if the day wanted to appear gentle before turning unforgettable. I woke up early, my heart full and restless. I felt joy, fear, excitement, and hope mixed together. Everything felt new. Everything felt possible. That day was meant to be the happiest moment of my life. She was already there when I woke up. She had slept in the same house with me the night before, helping with small tasks, arranging clothes, checking lists, and calming my nerves. She moved around easily, like someone who belonged there. She spoke gently, telling me to breathe, telling me everything would be perfect. Her voice sounded warm. Her face looked calm. She smiled at me often. She was not just a guest at my wedding. She had a role. She helped with dressing. She helped with greetings. She helped guide people to their seats. Everyone saw her as my closest friend. Many even thought she was my sister. That is how close she stood beside me. When the makeup was done, she looked at me for a long time. Her eyes stayed on my face longer than necessary. I remember asking her what she thought. She smiled again and said I looked beautiful. But there was something strange in the way she said it. Her voice sounded distant, like it came from far away. I ignored it. The ceremony began late in the morning. The place was full of color, music, and soft laughter. People smiled at me as I walked forward. I felt like I was floating. I did not see the ground. I did not hear anything except my own breath and the sound of my heart beating fast. She was standing close, just a few steps away. When I reached the front, I saw my husband waiting for me. He looked happy. He looked proud. His eyes stayed on me. I felt safe. I felt chosen. I felt sure. I did not notice her eyes move toward him. Throughout the ceremony, she stayed close. Too close. She adjusted my dress. She touched my arm. She whispered reminders into my ear. Each touch felt friendly, normal, harmless. I had no reason to question it. Once, when the priest spoke about loyalty, I noticed her go quiet. Her smile faded for a moment. Her hands folded tightly. Then she smiled again. I thought nothing of it. After the vows, during the celebration, she moved easily among guests. She laughed. She helped serve drinks. She spoke warmly to my family. Everyone praised her kindness. People told me how lucky I was to have such a supportive friend. I agreed with them. She danced, but not too much. She stayed near my husband during conversations. She listened when he spoke. She laughed when he joked. I saw it, but it did not register as danger. I was too happy. I was surrounded by love, music, and noise. My heart was full. There was no space for doubt. At one point, I noticed her watching us from across the room. Her face was still. Her eyes followed every movement. When our eyes met, she smiled quickly and looked away. I told myself she was tired. Later, during the photo session, she stood very close to him. Closer than others. When the photographer asked people to shift positions, she moved back slowly, like she did not want to leave that space. I felt a small discomfort rise in my chest. It passed quickly. I was a bride. I was happy. I was blind. As the evening went on, there were moments of silence between her smiles. Moments where she touched my husband's shoulder while speaking. Moments where she leaned in too close while laughing. None of it crossed a clear line. That is why I ignored it. That is why I stayed quiet. She congratulated me many times that day. She hugged me tightly. Her arms held me longer than usual. She whispered how proud she was of me. Her words sounded sincere, but her eyes told a different story. I did not know how to read that story yet. When the day ended and guests began to leave, she stayed behind to help clean up. She acted devoted. She acted caring. She acted like someone who loved me deeply. I thanked her. That night, as I lay beside my husband, tired and happy, I replayed the day in my mind. I remembered the laughter, the music, the promises. I remembered her smile. I did not realize that smile carried something else. Irony lives quietly. It does not announce itself. It stands beside you, smiling, while waiting for the right moment. That day, I believed I had everything. I did not know I was already losing it. After the celebration ended, life was supposed to slow down. That was what I believed. I thought the noise would fade, the guests would return to their homes, and peace would settle gently into our new marriage. I imagined quiet mornings, shared meals, small plans, and growing trust. But something else settled instead. At first, nothing looked wrong. The days after the wedding felt normal on the surface. We were tired, smiling, and still receiving calls from relatives. Gifts arrived slowly. Messages came in waves. Everyone wanted to talk about the wedding, about the joy, about the future. She remained present. At the beginning, her presence felt natural. She had always been close. She had always helped. So when she visited often, I saw no danger. She said she wanted to make sure I was settling in well. She said she missed me already. She said marriage should not take friends away. Her words sounded kind. She came by during the day. She came by in the evenings. Sometimes she stayed for dinner. Sometimes she stayed late. She never acted like a guest. She moved around the house freely. She opened drawers. She washed dishes. She sat comfortably on the couch, talking and laughing. I told myself this was friendship. Slowly, her attention shifted. At first, she spoke to both of us. Conversations were shared. Laughter belonged to everyone in the room. Then, little by little, I noticed moments where the focus changed. She began asking my husband questions that had nothing to do with me. She wanted to know about his work, his stress, his plans. She listened carefully. She remembered details. I noticed, but I stayed silent. Sometimes I would walk into the room and find them talking in low voices. When I entered, they would stop. She would smile and ask how I was doing. My husband would say nothing was wrong. They said they were only talking. I believed them. Her visits became longer. She stayed even when I felt tired. When I hinted that I needed rest, she laughed and said marriage should not make people boring. My husband agreed. He told me she meant no harm. He said I was overthinking. So I stopped speaking. There were evenings when I sat quietly while they talked. Their words flowed easily. They shared jokes I did not understand. They laughed at things I missed. I felt like a visitor in my own space, but I pushed that feeling away. I told myself adjustment takes time. She began calling my husband directly. At first, she called to ask about plans. Later, she called to talk. Sometimes I would notice his phone light up. He would smile before answering. He would step aside to take the call. When I asked who it was, he said it was nothing important. I nodded. There were private conversations I was not part of. When I asked what they discussed, the answers were short. They talked about work. They talked about stress. They talked about life.
Nothing serious, he said.
But my chest felt heavy. She started appearing even when I did not expect her. She knew his schedule. She arrived when he was home. She left when he left. It felt planned, though no one said it was. I noticed how comfortable she had become around him. She teased him. She corrected him. She touched his arm while speaking. I watched and said nothing. One afternoon, I returned home early. I found them sitting close together. Their heads leaned toward each other. They stopped talking when they saw me. The room went quiet for a second too long. She stood up quickly and asked if I wanted tea. I said yes. That night, I lay awake, replaying small moments in my mind. I told myself I was being unfair. I told myself friendship can look many ways. I told myself love means trust. Still, sleep did not come easily. My husband began sharing things with her before sharing them with me. I learned about his plans through her words. She would mention things casually, things I had not heard before. When I asked him about it, he said he forgot to tell me. I accepted that answer. The space between us grew quietly. It was not loud. It did not break things. It only stretched them. I felt it during meals. I felt it during silence. I felt it when he laughed more with her than with me. She became his comfort. When I tried to express concern, my words came out weak. I did not want to sound jealous. I did not want to appear controlling. I did not want to look foolish. So I laughed things off. I smiled when I wanted to cry. She noticed. She began staying even when I was not home. I would return and find signs of her presence. Cups in the sink.
Chairs moved.
Curtains adjusted. It felt like my space was changing without my permission. Still, I stayed quiet. I told myself this phase would pass. I believed things would return to balance. I believed marriage was stronger than doubt. I believed loyalty was natural. She remained calm, polite, and kind to my face. She asked about my day. She praised my cooking.
She spoke sweetly.
No one would believe she meant harm. Sometimes I did not believe it myself. But my body reacted before my mind accepted the truth. My stomach tightened when she arrived. My breath shortened when I saw them together. My hands felt cold when laughter filled the room without me. I dismissed every warning. I chose peace over truth. I chose silence over clarity. I chose comfort over confrontation. At night, when the house finally grew quiet, I stared at the ceiling and wondered when things had changed. I could not name the exact moment. It happened slowly, like water soaking into the ground. Nothing had exploded. Nothing had ended. Yet something was already broken. And I still told myself everything was fine. The change did not come with shouting or open conflict. It arrived softly, hidden behind smiles and gentle words. At first, I could not name it. I only felt it. Something had shifted, and the air around us no longer felt the same. She began comparing herself to me, though she never said it directly. It appeared in small ways. She talked about how tired she was, how much she sacrificed for others, how she never complained. When I spoke about my own stress, she would nod, then quietly describe hers as heavier. Her stories always sounded deeper, harder, more deserving of care. I listened. She commented on my choices without sounding harsh. If I dressed nicely, she joked that she could never keep up with my effort. If I dressed simply, she laughed and said marriage had already changed me. Each remark sounded harmless, yet they stayed in my mind long after she left. She spoke about herself often, about how people misunderstood her, about how she gave too much, about how she was always the one left behind. She said these things gently, almost sadly. My husband listened closely. He comforted her. He reassured her. I watched him become her support. When I tried to join the conversation, she stepped back and let me speak, but her silence carried weight. My words felt weaker next to her quiet sadness. My husband noticed her mood more than mine. He asked if she was okay. He worried about her feelings. I told myself I was imagining things. Her comments slowly changed direction. She spoke about marriage as if it was heavy. She said it could feel lonely. She said sometimes wives forget how to listen. She said men needed understanding more than arguments. Each sentence landed softly, but each one left a mark. My husband nodded. She never accused me directly. She never attacked me openly. Instead, she painted pictures where she was kind, patient, and unseen. Where others took love for granted. Where she stood quietly while others failed. I stayed silent. She began telling stories that placed her above me without saying so. She described how she handled problems calmly. How she never raised her voice. How she always thought of others first. She said these things while looking away, as if embarrassed by her own goodness. My husband admired her restraint. When disagreements happened between my husband and me, she somehow knew about them. She would later speak gently about similar issues, offering understanding without asking questions. She framed herself as someone who would never pressure, never demand, never complain. He listened. I noticed how often he defended her. When I expressed discomfort, he said she meant well. When I mentioned her comments, he said I was too sensitive. When I said her presence felt heavy, he said she was only lonely. I began doubting myself. She played the victim without crying. She did not beg for attention. She simply showed quiet pain. She talked about feeling unwanted. She talked about being alone in a crowded room. She talked about giving love without receiving it. My husband wanted to protect her. Slowly, sympathy turned into closeness. He checked on her often. He asked about her day. He worried when she sounded tired. I noticed how his tone changed when he spoke to her. It softened. It warmed. I felt invisible. She noticed my silence and used it. She spoke for me sometimes. She answered questions meant for me. She laughed gently and said she understood him better because she listened more. I swallowed my words. She framed me as busy, distracted, or distant. She said marriage brought responsibilities. She said it was natural for wives to change. She never said it with blame. She said it with understanding. My husband accepted that explanation. I felt replaced without being removed. She found ways to stand beside him, not across from me. She positioned herself as his mirror. She echoed his thoughts. She agreed with his opinions. She validated his frustrations. I stood apart. Her competition was quiet but constant. She compared effort, patience, understanding, and care. She made sure her kindness was noticed. She made sure her sacrifices were seen. She made sure my flaws appeared larger than they were. I began questioning myself. I wondered if I had failed as a wife. I wondered if love was slipping because I did not try hard enough. I wondered if I deserved the distance growing between us. She never took responsibility. When tension grew, she sighed and said she hated causing problems. When conflict followed her presence, she said she would step back, but never truly did. Each time she offered to leave, my husband asked her to stay. That hurt the most. I realized she had learned something important. She understood his needs. She studied his reactions. She watched our marriage closely. She knew when to speak and when to stay silent. She knew how to appear harmless while gaining ground. She was not trying to help my marriage. She was studying it. I saw it clearly one evening when my husband defended her again. I spoke about how uncomfortable I felt. He said she was only being supportive. He said she cared about us. He said she would never harm me. In that moment, I understood. Her jealousy was not loud. It was patient. It waited. It grew in small spaces. It used kindness as a tool. It wore understanding like a mask. It never rushed. And I had allowed it. By the time I recognized the competition, it was already deep. She had sympathy. She had trust. She had space inside my marriage. I had doubt, fear, and silence. The danger was never her closeness alone. The danger was how quietly she made me disappear. The distance did not arrive suddenly. It grew slowly, like a crack in a wall that no one repairs. At first, it was easy to ignore. I told myself every marriage goes through quiet seasons. I told myself work, stress, and daily pressure were the reasons. I wanted to believe that nothing serious was wrong. But my husband had changed. He no longer spoke freely with me. His answers became short. His laughter came less often. When I talked about my day, he listened with half attention. His mind always seemed somewhere else. I noticed how his eyes drifted toward his phone, how quickly he locked the screen when I came close. He started defending her in ways that felt unnecessary. If I mentioned her name, his body reacted before his words. He straightened up. His voice became firm. He asked why I always misunderstood her. He said she had a good heart. He said she only wanted peace. I felt small. When I said I was uncomfortable with how often she visited, he said I was being unfair. When I said her closeness made me uneasy, he said I was jealous without reason. When I said I needed boundaries, he said I was trying to control him. I began questioning my thoughts. I tried to explain my feelings calmly. I chose my words carefully. I avoided anger. Still, he turned the conversation around. He asked why I had changed. He asked why I no longer trusted him. He asked why I was always unhappy. I started doubting my memory. He reminded me of times I laughed with her. He said, I once said she was like a sister. He asked how that suddenly became a problem. He said I was rewriting the past. He said nothing had changed except my attitude. I felt confused. The home that once felt warm became quiet. Silence filled rooms where conversation used to live. We ate meals without sharing stories. We slept beside each other without closeness. Even his touch felt distant, as if his body was present, but his heart was not. I felt alone in my own marriage. Whenever conflict came up, he brought her into the conversation without meaning to. He said she agreed with him. He said she understood him. He said she listened better. Each comparison cut deep, even when he did not realize he was making one. I stopped speaking openly. Gaslighting began quietly. When I remembered events clearly, he said I misunderstood. When I recalled words spoken, he said I imagined them. When I pointed out patterns, he said I was overthinking. Each denial weakened my confidence. I started writing things down just to be sure. He questioned my emotions. He said I reacted too strongly. He said I always assumed the worst. He said I created problems where none existed. Over time, I stopped trusting my feelings. I felt lost. She became the safe subject. When I entered a room and they were talking, silence followed. He smiled and said nothing was wrong. She looked at me with soft eyes and asked if I was okay. Their calm made me feel unreasonable. I apologized often. I apologized for being sensitive. I apologized for bringing things up. I apologized for my mood. I apologized even when I did not know what I had done wrong. Each apology pushed me further into loneliness. My husband noticed my silence, but misunderstood it. He said I had grown cold. He said I no longer tried. He said marriage required effort. He did not see that I was tired from fighting unseen battles. I missed who we used to be. He shared less with me and more with her. I learned about his worries through her words. I heard his thoughts echoed by her voice. She became the bridge between us, though I never asked for one. That hurt deeply. At night, I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. My mind replayed conversations. I searched for mistakes. I wondered when I lost him. I wondered how love slipped away while I stood watching. I felt invisible. When I cried, he sighed. When I stayed quiet, he accused me of distance. There was no right response. Everything I did seemed wrong. I felt trapped between speaking and silence. He defended her without hesitation. If I said she crossed a line, he said she meant no harm. If I said she interfered, he said she only cared. If I said I needed space, he said I was pushing people away. I began isolating myself. Friends noticed my change. They asked why I looked tired. I smiled and said everything was fine. I did not want to explain something I barely understood myself. I did not want to sound foolish. At home, my voice grew quieter. He began treating my concerns as attacks. He said I always criticized. He said I never appreciated. He said I focused on negatives. His words made me feel like a burden. I questioned my worth. Gaslighting deepened. He said conversations never happened. He said promises were never made. He said I misunderstood jokes. Over time, reality felt unstable. I no longer trusted my own mind. I felt broken. I tried fixing things. I cooked his favorite meals. I dressed nicely. I planned quiet evenings. None of it brought him closer. His heart stayed guarded. His warmth was saved for someone else. I felt rejected. When I finally said I felt alone, he laughed softly and said marriage was not a fairy tale. He said I expected too much. He said life was not about feelings all the time. I stopped hoping. The distance became a wall. We lived in the same house but different worlds. His attention belonged elsewhere. My pain had no place. That was when I understood something painful. Distance does not always mean absence. Sometimes it means presence without love. And that kind of distance hurts the most. The discovery did not happen in one loud moment. There was no single scene that explained everything at once. The truth did not shout. It whispered. It slipped into my life quietly, piece by piece, until it became impossible to ignore. At first, I only caught signs. Small things that did not make sense. My husband started guarding his phone more closely. He carried it everywhere, even into the bathroom. If a message came in while we were together, he tilted the screen away. If I asked who it was, he answered too quickly, or not clearly enough. I noticed changes in timing. He stayed out longer than usual. He came home later with excuses that did not add up. Meetings that ran too long. Friends who needed help late at night. Traffic that never seemed to end. I tried not to ask too many questions. Deep inside, I already feared the answers. She also changed. Her visits became less frequent, but her presence felt stronger. When she did come around, she acted calmer than before, almost confident. She spoke to me gently, like someone handling fragile glass. Her eyes avoided mine, yet she smiled often. That smile unsettled me. I began noticing how my husband mentioned her name, without thinking. How he defended her even when she was not part of the conversation. How her opinions mattered to him more than mine. Still, I avoided confrontation. I told myself I needed proof. I told myself I was tired and imagining things. I told myself accusing without certainty would destroy everything. But the signs kept coming. One evening, while doing laundry, I found a scarf I did not recognize. It smelled like a perfume I knew too well. I stood there holding it, my hands trembling. When I asked him about it, he said it belonged to a colleague. His answer came too fast. I believed him. Or at least I pretended to. Another time, I overheard a phone call. His voice was low, careful. He used words he had not used with me in a long time. His tone was soft. When he noticed me, he ended the call quickly and smiled like nothing happened. That night, I could not sleep. My body reacted before my mind accepted the truth. My chest felt tight. My stomach twisted. My hands shook without reason. I felt cold even under warm blankets. The truth began leaking into my thoughts. I started remembering moments I had ignored. The looks they shared, the silence when I entered a room, the way he took her side every time, the way she studied me as if measuring something. I felt foolish. I avoided direct confrontation because I was afraid. Afraid of hearing words that could never be taken back. Afraid of confirming what my heart already knew. Instead, I watched. I listened more carefully. I noticed patterns. I paid attention to details I once dismissed. Each detail added weight to my fear. One afternoon, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. His shoes were by the door. My heart began pounding. I heard voices. Low. Familiar. I froze. I did not move closer. I did not open doors. I stood still, my breath shallow, my ears strained. Their conversation stopped suddenly. Footsteps moved apart. When I walked in, they both looked surprised. Too surprised. They said nothing was wrong. That was when disbelief took over. My hands began shaking openly. I could not control it. My vision blurred. My head felt light. I asked simple questions, but my voice sounded distant, like it did not belong to me. They denied everything. They said I misunderstood. They said I arrived at the wrong time. They said I was tired. Their calm made me feel like I was losing my mind. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the floor and cried silently. My body shook as if it was breaking apart. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stop any sound. I did not want them to hear me fall. That night, I stared at my reflection and barely recognized myself. The truth no longer felt like a thought. It felt like a weight on my chest. Over the next days, more cracks appeared. Messages deleted. Stories changed. Excuses repeated with different details. Each lie made the truth clear. I stopped asking questions. I already knew. The final confirmation came quietly. A message appeared on his phone while it was charging beside me. Her name. A single line that said everything without saying much. I miss you too. My whole body froze. There was no denial left. No space for doubt. No room for hope. I felt numb. There was no scream. No shouting. No tears at first. Just a deep, hollow silence inside me. My hands stopped shaking. My heart slowed, not from peace, but from shock. I placed the phone back where it was. I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. The discovery broke something inside me. Not loudly, but completely. Trust collapsed. Love cracked. Safety disappeared. I did not confront them immediately. I needed to breathe. I needed to understand how something so close could destroy me so quietly. That was the moment I realized the betrayal had already happened long before I found proof. The discovery was not the beginning. It was the confirmation of an ending I had been living in without knowing. The confirmation did not come with drama at first. It came with silence. After the message, I did not sleep. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing beside me. Every breath felt heavy. My body was tired, but my mind refused to rest. The truth replayed again and again. By morning, I knew I could not keep pretending. I waited until the house was quiet. I sat across from him at the table. My hands were calm, but my chest felt empty. I asked him a simple question. I did not raise my voice. I did not accuse. I only asked, "Are you seeing her?"
He looked at me for a long time.
Too long. That silence was the first confession. He did not say yes. He did not say no. He sighed and looked away. His eyes moved to the window, then to the floor. He rubbed his hands together like someone searching for words that did not exist. I repeated the question. This time, he said I was overthinking. He said I was tired. He said I was imagining things because of stress. His voice was flat, not caring, not angry, just distant. That hurt more than shouting would have. I told him about the message.
His face changed.
Not with shame, but with irritation. He asked why I was checking his phone. He turned the blame toward me. He said privacy mattered. He said trust mattered. I almost laughed.
Trust.
I asked him again. This time he said nothing. That silence broke the last piece of hope inside me. Later that day, I went to see her. I did not plan it carefully. I only knew I needed to hear the truth from her mouth. I needed to look into her eyes. She welcomed me calmly. Too calmly. We sat across from each other like strangers. I asked her directly. I did not soften my words. I did not protect her feelings. Are you involved with my husband? She smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a regretful one. A small, controlled smile. The kind that holds confidence. She did not deny it. She said it happened naturally. She said they connected. She said she did not plan it, but she did not stop it either. Her voice carried no apology. No guilt. No shame. She said she deserved happiness too. I waited for remorse. It never came. She spoke as if I was an obstacle, not a friend. As if my marriage was a mistake that needed correction. As if she had simply taken what life owed her. I felt my hands begin to shake. My legs felt weak. I wanted to shout, to cry, to ask how she could do this after standing beside me on my wedding day. But she did not care. She said she did not force him. She said he chose her. She said feelings cannot be controlled. Those words crushed me. I left without saying goodbye. When I returned home, my husband was waiting. I told him I knew everything. I told him she admitted it. I waited for him to fight for us. I waited for him to explain. I waited for him to apologize. He did none of those things. He sat quietly. His face showed nothing. He said he needed time. He said he was confused. He said things became complicated. Complicated. He did not choose me. He did not choose her either. He chose silence. That silence destroyed our marriage. Days passed with little conversation. We moved around each other like strangers. He avoided my eyes. He slept late. He came home less often. The house felt cold. I realized then that betrayal does not always come with anger. Sometimes it comes with indifference. Sometimes the person you love simply stops caring enough to fight. I cried alone. I broke quietly. I questioned myself endlessly. What did I miss? Where did I fail? When did I lose them both? The answers did not matter anymore. One evening, he told me he was leaving for a while.
He packed a small bag.
He did not explain where he was going. He did not ask how I felt. He only said he needed space. That was the end. No shouting. No closure. No final words. Just a marriage collapsing under the weight of betrayal. I watched the door close behind him and felt something inside me die. Not love. Love had already faded. What died was belief. Belief in loyalty. Belief in friendship. Belief that good intentions protect you. She never reached out again. He never apologized. The betrayal was confirmed not by words, but by actions. By choices made quietly. By silence that spoke louder than any confession. That was when I understood the truth. I did not lose them. They chose to leave me behind. When everything ended, it did not feel loud. It felt empty. The house became quiet in a way I had never known before. Not peaceful quiet. This was a heavy silence that pressed on my chest. Every room carried memories that refused to leave. The couch where we laughed. The kitchen where we planned our future. The bedroom where I once felt safe. Now, none of it felt like mine. Trust was the first thing I lost. I no longer trusted words. Simple sentences felt dangerous. When people spoke kindly, I searched for hidden meaning. When someone smiled at me, I wondered what they wanted. I replayed conversations in my head, trying to catch lies I might have missed. I stopped believing promises. Even small ones. If someone said, "I'll call you later," my mind whispered they won't. If someone said, "I care about you," my heart asked for how long. Trust did not disappear all at once. It broke slowly, like glass cracking under pressure. Each memory of betrayal widened the cracks. Soon, nothing felt solid anymore. I also lost my sense of home. The house we shared no longer felt safe. Every corner reminded me of what had been taken. I could not sleep well there. At night, I listened to sounds that were not real. I imagined footsteps. I imagined laughter that was not mine. Sometimes I sat on the bed and cried quietly, afraid even the walls would judge me. Friends stopped visiting as often.
Some did not know what to say.
Others chose sides without asking for the truth. A few believed rumors. A few avoided me completely. Isolation crept in slowly. At first, people checked on me. Then days passed. Then weeks.
Calls became rare.
Messages stopped. Invitations disappeared. I watched life move on for everyone else while mine stayed stuck. I felt ashamed, even though I did nothing wrong. Shame wrapped around me like a tight cloth. I felt embarrassed to be seen, embarrassed to explain, embarrassed to admit my marriage failed and my friend betrayed me. I blamed myself in quiet moments. Maybe I trusted too much. Maybe I ignored signs. Maybe I was not enough. Grief followed shame closely. I did not only grieve the marriage. I grieved the future I imagined. Children we talked about. Trips we planned. Old age we promised to share. All of it vanished without warning. I also grieved the friendship. Losing her hurt in a different way. She knew my secrets, my fears, my hopes. She stood beside me on my wedding day and smiled. That memory haunted me the most. That smile. Sometimes I wondered if it was fake from the beginning. My body felt the loss too. I stopped eating properly. Food had no taste.
Sleep avoided me.
When I slept, dreams brought everything back. I woke up tired, even after long hours in bed. My chest often felt tight. My hands shook without reason. People said time would heal me. Time passed, but pain stayed. Social gatherings became difficult. I avoided weddings. I avoided happy couples. Seeing love made me feel like an outsider. I smiled when required, but inside I felt hollow. I learned to be alone, not because I wanted to, but because it felt safer. No expectations. No promises. No betrayal. The aftermath was not one single moment. It was a long season. A slow walk through loss, confusion, and silence. Some days were manageable. Others felt unbearable. But through it all, one truth became clear. Betrayal does not only take people away. It takes your sense of safety. It takes your confidence. It takes the version of yourself that believed in forever. And rebuilding from that takes more strength than anyone ever warns you about. Looking back now, I see July 1987 not as a single moment in time, but as a turning point that changed everything. At the time, I did not know it. I thought I was helping a friend, sharing my life, trusting the people closest to me. I never imagined that my kindness and trust would be used against me. I never imagined that a smile could hide a plan, that someone I welcomed into my home could slowly take it apart. I remember the early signs now, the small warnings I ignored. The way she looked at him a little too often, the way he responded just a little differently whenever she was around. At the time, I brushed it off as harmless. I told myself that I was overthinking, that love and friendship were meant to be safe, that I was imagining things. I see now that those signs were loud, screaming even, if only I had listened. Trust, I have learned, is not something given blindly. It is not about kindness alone. It is about knowing boundaries, listening to instinct, and observing patterns carefully. My mistake was believing too quickly, accepting too easily. I assumed loyalty without testing it. I assumed honesty without seeing it clearly. I ignored my own unease because I did not want to be rude, because I did not want to assume the worst about someone I considered a friend. The growth I have gained through this pain is quiet, slow, and not the kind that is visible to others. It is in the way I now notice things, in the way I trust carefully, in the way I hold myself when I meet someone new. I have learned to watch gestures and tones, to pay attention to the small inconsistencies, to value my own feelings even when they contradict my hopes. I have learned that betrayal is not always obvious. It is subtle, like a shadow moving across the floor. It grows slowly, quietly, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. And yet, despite all the damage, I also learned something else. Survival is possible. The heart can break, the mind can shatter, the life we knew can vanish, but it is possible to keep moving forward. I think often about the version of myself I was before July 1987. She was trusting, open, happy in small things, careless in a way that seemed natural. She would not have imagined that the people she loved most could turn on her. But that girl also had courage. She took risks. She loved freely. That courage, that willingness to give, has not left me entirely. I carry it now, tempered with caution, wiser, aware of shadows and signs. One of the hardest lessons is about noticing patterns. When someone wants to take advantage of your kindness, they do not rush. They test, they observe, they manipulate slowly. The signs are always there. The problem is that we often ignore them because we do not want to hurt someone, because we do not want to believe betrayal could exist in the hearts of people we love. I have learned that betrayal is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is polite. Sometimes it comes wrapped in smiles and compliments and gestures that appear innocent. And it is in the quiet, in the polite, in the subtle, that the danger grows. That is the lesson I carry every day. I also reflect on my own choices. I could have acted differently at many points. I could have said no when I felt uneasy. I could have questioned more, demanded explanations, noticed my own instincts. I could have walked away earlier, protected myself, protected my heart. But I did not. I was kind. I was trusting. I believed in the best of people. That belief cost me dearly. Yet, I do not regret the love I gave or the care I offered. That kindness is part of who I am. The difference now is that I know how to guard it. I know when to hold it close and when to shield it. I know that trust is earned, not given freely. I know that some smiles hide storms. Looking back also brings gratitude. I survived. My life continued even after betrayal. I learned to rebuild, to adapt, to watch and grow. I have formed relationships carefully, yes, but I have not stopped caring entirely. I have not stopped giving to those who deserve it. I have not stopped loving life, even with its shadows. Finally, the reflection is also a warning. I would tell anyone listening, anyone reading, watch for the small signs. Listen to your instincts. Do not ignore the uneasy feeling in your chest. Kindness is good, but self-preservation is necessary. Not every smile is harmless. Not every hand extended in friendship is free from intention. Some moments demand one thing: caution, refusal, walking away. July 1987 taught me this lesson the hardest way. It left me with scars, with pain, with memories that will never fade. But it also gave me wisdom, strength, and a deep understanding of human nature. The choice I made that day, the choice to trust, shaped my life forever. I cannot undo it. I cannot change the past. But I can learn from it and I can share the lesson. Some moments demand one thing: refusal. Some choices, no matter how kind or polite, must be denied. That is the lesson I carry in my heart every day. That is the reflection I return to whenever life tests my trust again. I survived betrayal, and I continue because I now see the world more clearly, more cautiously, and with the awareness that kindness must be balanced with wisdom. The girl I was in July 1987 would not have believed it. The woman I am now knows it well. And that knowledge, bitter as it is, has become my strength. Some betrayals do not come from strangers. They do not come from people you meet once or cross paths with briefly. The deepest betrayals often come from those who are closest to you, the ones who smile with you, cheer for you, and sit beside you on your happiest days. Some betrayals come from people who clap the loudest at your wedding, who seem to share in your joy, who seem to love you like a friend should. They watch you carefully, study your life, and wait. They wait not to celebrate, but to find the perfect moment to take what you value most. If someone watches your happiness too closely, pay attention. If their presence makes your chest tighten, if their words or smiles feel a little too calculated, listen to that feeling. It is a warning. Some moments demand caution, not kindness. Some smiles hide intentions you cannot afford to ignore. Your instincts exist for a reason. Your intuition is your first line of defense. Protect your heart, your home, and your life. Choose wisely who you let in. Some people do not wish you harm openly, they wait quietly for the right time. Remember, kindness is a strength, but self-preservation is a necessity. Do not mistake applause for loyalty. Not every hand extended in friendship is free from intention. Some moments, some people demand one thing: vigilance. Some betrayals are invisible until it is too late. Learn the signs. Guard yourself. And always, always trust your instincts.